When people think of Andrew Huberman, they think of science-backed routines, biological optimization, and peak mental performance. They think of discipline, of sunlight in the morning, of cold showers, and dopamine regulation. But because most people are only listening to the surface-level habits, they are missing the real depth of what he teaches. But there is a side to his advice that very few people talk about. Not because it is hidden. Because if you only see Huberman's advice as hacks for your routine, you are missing the bigger picture. This video is not about dismissing what Andrew Huberman says. It is about going deeper into what it really means. The modern world is not designed for clarity or discipline. It is designed for consumption. He teaches how to take back control of your biology. And in today's world, that is revolutionary. Andrew Huberman does not just teach habits. We live in a time where everything is fighting for your attention. Notifications, ads, noise, quick dopamine. But they forget to ask the deeper question. Why do these things matter so much now? They never had to consciously expose themselves to sunlight because it was a part of life. They are trying to manage their biology without addressing their beliefs. They are chasing productivity without facing what they are running from. Huberman's advice works best when paired with self-awareness, because discipline without direction is wasted energy. It is the invitation to slow down and reconnect with the systems that make you human. They never had to build boundaries around screens because screens did not exist. When Huberman explains how dopamine works, most people walk away thinking they just need to cut out pleasure. But that is not the message. So when Huberman talks about managing dopamine, it is not just about feeling good or avoiding burnout. It is about not becoming a slave to quick hits. It is about delaying gratification so you can find joy in progress, not just the outcome. It is about survival. It is about keeping your mind sharp in a system that is built to make you numb. It is a shield against a world that trains you to be distracted. And Huberman is one of the few voices saying, slow down, train it, respect it. Most people focus on the habit, get sunlight, take cold showers, delay caffeine, and those are great. Because we are the first generation to face this much artificial stimulation. Your ancestors never had to manage dopamine. So Huberman's advice is not just about optimization. It is about defense. Now here's the other part people rarely talk about. You can follow every biological protocol. You can eat right, sleep right, train right. But if you do not know who you are and what you want, you will still feel lost. Huberman can give you the blueprint for peak performance, but only you can define the purpose. And without purpose, performance turns into pressure. This is why so many people chase routines and still burn out. The hidden power in Andrew Huberman's work is not the protocol. It is not just about stacking habits. It is about rewiring your relationship with your mind and body. Let's take the dopamine discussion, for example. The message is about building a more sustainable relationship with reward. Because in a world of likes, views, and endless validation, dopamine has become one of the most abused systems in the body. That takes awareness. That takes a willingness to be uncomfortable. Another example is cold exposure. Many people now see it as a challenge, a way to prove toughness. But its original purpose is regulation, resilience, nervous system control. Huberman teaches it as a way to train your body to stay calm under stress. That is not just about health. That is leadership. That is preparation for life's chaos. If you get out of the ice and return to a life of chaos, overstimulation, and no boundaries, the ice will not save you. But here is the part that gets ignored. Cold exposure is only a tool. That modern life has no off switch unless you build one yourself. Huberman's point is not that you need a perfect routine. It is that your nervous system needs rhythm. That you need consistency. And that is what this really comes down to. Building an internal structure in a world that offers none. Andrew Huberman's work gives people that structure. but it only works if you see beyond the hacks. If you realize that every habit he talks about is just a doorway back to balance, back to ownership, back to clarity, you are not just delaying caffeine to be trendy. You are delaying caffeine to stabilize your energy. You are not just getting sunlight for the sake of a checklist. That is the downside of this movement if you are not careful. You can follow all the right habits and still feel lost if you are doing it out of fear. If you are doing it because you think you are never enough. But that power does not come from doing everything perfectly. It comes from doing the right things consistently, with intention. The goal is to know what your body needs and respond with care. But the real work is personal. It is listening to your body, watching your patterns, choosing what works for you, the freedom to simplify, the freedom to say no to what doesn't serve you. It is about connection. It is not about stacking habits. It is about building harmony. The freedom to build a life around health, not hype. You are sensing your biology to nature's clock. You are not doing breath work to seem mindful, about clarity, not complexity, about being human, not being perfect. That there are no shortcuts, just systems, just biology, just practice. You are calming your system so you can respond, not react. But do not become another person trying to be a robot. Be human, be real, be intentional. That is the side of Andrew Huberman's advice that no one talks about, but it is the most important one. But do not forget why they matter. They matter because you matter. Your focus, your peace, your presence. They shame themselves for skipping a habit. They trade flexibility for control. This is about learning how to work with your biology, not against it. Now let's talk about what no one talks about. The danger of using Huberman's advice as a way to chase perfection. Because here is the truth. Optimization should not become obsession. That is the trap. Huberman provides clarity, but the internet often turns it into a game of comparison. People try to perfect every minute of their day. That is not mental health. That is pressure with a scientific label. The goal is not to master every tool. Andrew Huberman's work reminds us that we have more power than we realize. His science-backed advice is a starting point. And that is what nobody talks about enough. That his work is about empowerment, not performance. Because in a world that sells shortcuts, Huberman is telling you the truth. But do not let that truth become pressure. Let it become freedom. If you take anything from his work, let it be this. Mastering your biology is not about control. So yes, use the tools. Use the protocols. No habit will save you if you are not present for your own life. That is the message behind the message. Because science can explain how the body works. But only you can decide what kind of life you want to live in that body. Use his knowledge. Use it wisely. And that is where the real transformation begins.